write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is so I can get to know you better. To support the channel for free, don't forget to subscribe and like. The first hour of your day is not yours. You gave it away to your phone, to the news, to the noise of other people's urgency. And in doing so, you handed over the only hour that actually belongs to you before the world makes its demands. Edo period Japan, 1710. A samurai rises before the sun, not because he must, because he has decided that the hours before dawn are sacred, a space that belongs entirely to the warrior before the world remembers he exists. He does not check anything. He does not react to anything. He moves through a sequence so deliberate, so precisely designed, that by the time the sun appears, he is already fully himself. The day cannot touch him. He has already won it. What that sequence looked like, and why it worked with a precision that modern morning routine culture has never replicated, is what this video reveals. Not habits, not productivity hacks, a complete philosophy of morning as the architecture of the self, built in silence, built in ritual, built to last. In feudal Japanese culture, Asa, morning, was not simply the start of the day. It was a threshold, a border between the unconscious world of sleep and the conscious world of action. The samurai who crossed that threshold carelessly was considered spiritually unprepared, a warrior who had already surrendered the highest value hours to chance. The morning ritual was therefore not self-improvement. It was an act of reclamation, a daily declaration that the self, not circumstance, would determine the quality of the hours that followed. This understanding reframes everything about how we approach the first hour. Most modern morning routines are designed to optimize output, to produce more, move faster, perform better. The samurai morning was designed for something prior to all of that, to establish the internal state from which all output would flow. Get the state right first. Everything else follows. Today, before you reach for any device tomorrow morning, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Reclaim the threshold. Nothing else yet. Just that. The samurai morning began not with planning or exercise, but with Misogi, purification. In Shinto tradition, Misogi described the ritual cleansing of the body and spirit, most commonly through cold water. For the warrior, this was not ascetic punishment. It was a precise psychological tool. The cold water interrupted the residual dream state of sleep, activated the nervous system fully, and created a sharp boundary between the unconscious night and the conscious day. Modern neuroscience confirms what the samurai practiced by observation. Cold water exposure triggers norepinephrine release, the neurochemical of alertness and focus, at levels measurable for hours after the exposure. A 2-minute cold shower in the morning produces a neurological state of readiness that caffeine approximates but never matches. After purification came Chinkon, literally soul settling, a period of complete stillness in which the warrior sat, breathed, and allowed the mind to arrive fully in the present moment before engaging with any thought, plan, or obligation. Not meditation, as the modern world understands it, not relaxation, not visualization, not gratitude journaling. Simply being present, without agenda, until the restless surface of the mind grew still enough to reflect clearly. The samurai understood something that most people discover only in Christ. It confuses urgency with importance. It is moved by the loudest stimulus rather than the most significant one. Chinkon was the daily antidote, 5 to 20 minutes of deliberate stillness that established the inner ground from which the day's choices would be made. Research on morning cortisol patterns confirms that the first 30 minutes after waking are neurologically decisive for the emotional tone of the entire day. Chinkon worked with this window, not against it. Today, sit still for 10 minutes after Misogi. No phone, no input, just arrival. Here is what happens inside the brain during the first 60 minutes after waking, and why the samurai's instincts about this window were neurologically precise. Upon waking, the brain transitions from theta wave activity, the slow, dream-adjacent state, to alpha waves, and eventually to the beta waves of active cognition. This transition takes approximately 30 to 60 minutes. During the transition, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and intentional thought, is operating at reduced capacity. This means the first hour is the hour of highest neurological vulnerability. The mind is most susceptible to external programming, most likely to absorb the emotional tone of whatever it encounters first. The samurai who began with Misogi and Chinkon was, without knowing the neuroscience, protecting this window from contamination. The modern person who reaches for the phone immediately upon waking floods this vulnerable window with dopamine triggers, anxiety-producing news, and other people's agendas, and wonders why the day feels reactive from the start. Guard the first hour. It programs everything that follows. After stillness came movement. The samurai's morning practice, typically sword kata performed with a Bokken, the wooden training sword, was not exercise in the modern sense. It was not about physical fitness. It was about the deliberate activation of mushin through the body. By moving through a sequence so familiar it required no conscious thought, the warrior bypassed the analytical mind and established a state of embodied presence that could not be reached through thought alone. The kata was a moving meditation, a bridge between the stillness of Chinkon and the active demands of the day. Neuroscientists studying expert motor performance describe a state called flow that occurs during highly practiced physical sequences, a complete absorption in action that silences the default mode network and produces the neurological signature of peak performance. The samurai accessed this state every morning before the day had made a single demand. They arrived at their work already in flow. Today, establish one physical morning practice so simple and repeatable that it requires no decision. 10 minutes of the same movement every morning before anything else. The samurai's morning concluded with tea, not as refreshment, but as ceremony. Cha-no-yu, the way of tea, was in its original philosophical form, a practice of total presence condensed into a single act. The preparation of the bowl, the precise temperature of the water, the rhythm of the whisk, each element demanded complete attention. Nothing could be done carelessly. Nothing could be done while thinking about something else. The tea ceremony was a daily training in undivided presence. Senno Rikyu, the 16th century tea master who defined the philosophy of Cha-no-yu, described its purpose as ichi go ichi-e, this moment, only once, never again. The warrior who completed his morning tea had practiced in miniature the complete philosophy of the samurai life: purification, stillness, movement, and finally the art of being entirely present in a single unrepeatable moment. He was ready. Today, make your morning drink without a screen. Prepare it slowly. Drink it fully. Let that be the final act of the morning ritual before the day begins. The samurai morning was architecturally protected from external intrusion. No messenger arrived before the ritual was complete. No obligation penetrated the sacred hours. This was not luxury. It was strategic necessity. A warrior whose morning was consumed by reacting to the world's demands arrived at his actual work already depleted, his best cognitive hours spent on other people's urgency. The smartphone has made the samurai's greatest enemy available at arm's reach the moment consciousness returns. Average data shows most people check their phone within 3 minutes of waking. In those 3 minutes, the carefully constructed neurological window of the morning is flooded. Cortisol spikes, attention fragments, the reactive brain state that the samurais spent hours preventing is established in seconds. No morning ritual can survive phone contact in the first 30 minutes. This is not discipline advice. It is physics. You cannot build stillness and introduce chaos simultaneously. Choose one. The samurai chose stillness first, chaos later, and that sequence is why they were ready when chaos arrived. Modern morning routine culture has made the samurai's simple sequence nearly impossible to access, not because the practices are difficult, but because the culture has made the routine itself into a performance. 5 a.m. club, cold plunge, journaling, visualization, breath work, red light therapy. 90-minute sequences demanding equipment, planning, and alarm set to a time that guarantees sleep deprivation. The routine has become the obstacle. The samurai morning was ruthlessly simple. Purification, stillness, movement, tea. 4 elements, 30 to 60 minutes total. No equipment beyond a bowl of cold water and a wooden sword. The simplicity was not poverty of imagination. It was precision. Every element served a specific neurological or philosophical function. Nothing was included because it was trending. The Zen concept of kanso, simplicity, the elimination of everything unnecessary, governed the design. A morning ritual that requires perfect conditions will be abandoned. The moment conditions are imperfect. Build it simple enough to do in 30 minutes on your worst day. That is the morning that will actually change your life. The philosophy is complete. Now the architecture. Your morning ritual needs exactly 4 elements, one for each of the samurai's functions. 1 act of purification, cold water, cold shower, face wash with cold water, something that creates a sharp, physical boundary between sleep and wakefulness. 1 act of stillness, 5 to 10 minutes of silence with no input, no agenda, no phone, just presence. 1 act of movement, the same physical sequence every morning, practiced without variation until it requires no decision. 1 act of presence, your morning drink, prepared and consumed without a screen. Total time, 30 minutes. No equipment required beyond what you already own. No alarm required beyond whatever you currently use. The sequence is fixed: purification, stillness, movement, presence. Because fixed sequences remove decision fatigue and allow the ritual to become automatic. An automatic morning ritual does not depend on motivation. It runs on identity. You are not someone who does a morning routine. You are someone for whom this is simply what morning is. Build it this week, 1 element at a time. Start tomorrow with the cold water. There is a version of you that exists only in the morning, before the messages arrive, before the obligations remember you, before the day makes its first demand. That version is not waiting to be discovered. It is waiting to be built, deliberately, quietly. In the dark hours before anyone else is watching, the samurai did not perform his morning ritual to become productive. He performed it to become himself, fully, completely, before the world had the chance to make him into something else. Every morning he chose, through deliberate action, who he would be that day, not whose circumstance would make him who he had decided to be. That decision made in silence and cold water and stillness and tea was the most important decision of his day. Everything after was simply execution. You have the same choice every morning. The phone can wait. The world can wait. The news can wait. But the person you are becoming cannot wait, because he is built only in the hours the world does not yet know you are awake. Rise before the noise. Build yourself first. Osu. The morning does not belong to your phone. It does not belong to the news or the notifications or anyone else's urgency. It belongs to the person you are becoming, and that person is built only in silence, cold water, stillness, and deliberate movement. Tomorrow morning, before anything else, do one thing. Splash cold water on your face. Stand with it for 30 seconds. That is your Misogi. That is where the ritual begins. Everything else follows from that single act of choosing yourself first. If this reached you, subscribe. Tell me in the comments what your morning currently looks like and what one thing you will change tomorrow. Osu.